Test. Hello again. Alberto Planas, openSUSE in numbers.
Hi. Okay. In this presentation, we are going to see some basic numbers in openSUSE, mainly downloads, users, contributions, and there is a final surprise. There is a comparison between openSUSE and another distribution. Let's start for the basic. Downloads. How many downloads do we have in our repository? When we are talking about data mining, the first thing that we need to explain is how we gather those numbers. The objective of this study, this initial study, is not to measure the number of users that are downloading the distribution. It's the number of real downloads that we have. This draw a path about how we need to count the different downloads. Only for curiosity, the amount of data that we are working on is really big. We are generating like 2 gigabytes of data per day in a compressed format. And after some processing, the final data is now 1.5 terabytes of a Berkeley DB QGES data storage. To gather this data and process this data is a very interesting technical problem. Okay, the first task is try to have a picture of downloads per day. This graph is a bit useless. You show that all the information is in the base and there is a small set of few pikes over the release date. So we need to mangle this data and to have a better approach, to have a better view of what is happening here. So the next step is to group the downloads, to summarize the downloads per week. And we see that we come from a high frequency graph to a graph where we can see more bigger areas for the downloads. In this final one, this is the one that we make all the analysis. We can see that we group the downloads per month, and in every color, we see the number of downloads for every distribution. You can see a big pike in 11.3 distribution. After that, a smaller pike in the next one, 11.4. 12.1 was a big success with 2 pikes. You can see 2 pikes in this distribution. This is something that is very difficult to explain. 12.2 doesn't have a big impact as the other release, and 12.3, the last distribution, we are in the last corner of the. Today is the right side of the graph. It's now evolving and have more impact than the previous one, but we are not reaching the impact of previous distribution. To make a proper analysis of this kind of graph, you need to put in context certain pikes that can be explained with a timeline that we have, or we all know. Obviously, the bigger pikes are the release date. So the first month of the release days, the people download, obviously, the distribution. But there is a second pike in 12.1 that is a bit hard to explain. We have 2 explanations for that. Obviously, it's because something happened in the media. For some reason, the media start talking about openSUSE in this period of time, and the people start downloading again the current distribution, 12.1. We have found 2 possible explanations. One is the release of OBS. Another one was the announcement of the delay of 12.2. And looks like that only the announcement of the delay increased the download number of the previous distribution because the people see again openSUSE in the media. One last exercise that we did is to create a linear model, a regression model of this data. This spotted line that we see in the middle of the graph is this linear model. We can use this linear model to forecast, to see how is the evolution of number of downloads, in this case, per month. The important thing is the slope of the graph. You can see this, in this case, the slope is positive and it's nearly 2,000 more downloads per month. So that means that every month we have 2,000 more downloads than the previous month. With this model, the good thing is that we can create some numbers, some basic numbers, and with the linear model that we are using, the equation is below here, and the different parameters, the slope and the V are those, and we can see how many downloads we will have at the beginning of the next year. So in this case, we are increasing. It's important. We can repeat this exercise with users. I don't know if you know that when you access to the repository using Zipper, you send a signature, a identification that identify your machine. So in this case, we are counting the number of installations that we have. And this correlates, obviously, with the number of users that we have. But this is not exactly the same concept. The methodology is a bit different from downloads because counting on users, if you see a user during a period of time, you count as a one user, as a one installation. So if you see during this period of time, you see different times this UUID, you only to count once this installation. It's a bit different. So if we repeat this graph, daily we can see a high frequency graph that is very difficult to analyze. If we are making growth per weeks, we lose all the high frequency information. And this is per month. You can see if we use the time frame of a month, we see a very, very stable evolution of the graph. Again, we split per color the level of the distribution that we are using. You can see that, for example, in today, that is again in the right side of the graph, more than a half of our current installation are using a previous version of openSUSE. Also, it's very interesting to see in the left side of the graph a small red thing, and this is factory. So there is a moment in time that factory was relevant and appears in this graph. And again, we create a linear model for this graph. You can see this, again, the spot line. In this case, the slope of this graph is negative. And what does that mean? It means that we are effectively losing users per month. So the next month, we will have nearly 300 users less than the month that we have today. Another interesting thing that we can see in this graph is a small tail that appears just after the release. This tail is the people that are using and testing the next openSUSE version. So we can see that we have people that are testing. How many do we have in relation with the current users of this release? Again, we can create the linear model, and we have a negative slope, but we can see that it's a very small slope, so the number of users is constant over the years. Only to play with this data, I try to see if there is a change of behavior of the people that use the different mediums and architecture that we have. The methodology is very similar to the rest. I only try to count hits, so the graph is not it's only thing that hits, so it's not users, it's not IPs, it's only hits. And this is the actual graph per week. You can see that the main medium is in the upper graph. The blue color, this blue mass of color, is the DVD installation, and the yellow that is upper, the blue one is the people that install the distribution using the net install. We can see that it's important. The net install is something important for our users because it's something that they actually use to install the distribution. Below we can see the different architecture that we provide, the 32 and 64 version. This is a fact that we have more users that are using the 64 version than the 32. And I think that is something good for us. One important thing in the medium is that we see in the data, we can see in this graph because the scale is very big, but we can see in the data that there are people using our distribution in a cloud environment. The EC2 is people that use Amazon to install and use the distribution. And I think that is very interesting because we have a way to see how the people are using the distribution in a cloud system. This is Factory is our rolling release, and Tumbleweed is another rolling release. So I think that is interesting to check how the people prefer one or another distribution and how is the evolution over time. Okay, the red line, this below this red line, is Factory, and the blue one is Tumbleweed. We need to be very careful about the scale. We can see that we have nearly 2,000 users in Factory, and we have a peak of 11,000 users in Tumbleweed. Lastly, is decreasing the number of users on Tumbleweed, and Factory is more or less stable with certain peaks that is very close to the release. So people start stopping using the Factory after the release. But there is interest. You can see that there is interest in a rolling release distribution because we can see important numbers here. OBS. This is how the people contribute to the system. So it's important to have some numbers, some basic numbers about how is the evolution of people working in our tool to make the package. Again, the methodology is we have an API in OBS that we can recover all the submit requests. We count the submit requests per month, and we try to identify using the email if this user is a SUSE employee or a community member, and we have this kind of graph. The blue one is the overall, the summation of all the contributions in Factory and in Devel projects. So this is the thing of contribution that are apporting to the next release. It's not only to Factory. So we are counting here the release manager contribution, but also the basic contribution from the package that go to the Devel and after that Factory. We try to split this blue line in two different sets. That's the summation is the blue line. The green one is people that work in openSUSE. We can see that it's very constant. It's our work to work in Factory, in OBS. So we have the same number of engineers, maybe with some peaks very close to the release. But the good thing is that we have the red line is increasing, and there is a moment in time that surpassed the contribution from the company, and this is the community members. So we have more contributions in OBS from the community members than from the SUSE employees, and it's interesting. We can create a linear model to see how many users do we gather by month, and the level is missing here, but overall we have like 5 more users per month in overall, and 3 of them are from the community, from contributors from the community. And again, I think that maybe it's not a big number. 3 people that are contributing in Factory in OBS is not a big number, but it's a fact that we are increasing. We have another aspect for this project it's not so technical, is the social media. And we have a comparison here. We count the number of followers for SUSE, that is for openSUSE, that is the graph on the top, from Fedora. We can see that Fedora is have more numbers than us, but we grow faster. And this is interesting because today we have more followers than Fedora, at least in Google+. The Google+ is the bar of the top. And today we are growing faster, and we have more users. More followers, sorry. Okay, and this is a very interesting exercise. we are trying, we have numbers, but the number by itself is very difficult to put in context. So we have another distribution, and we need to compare our downloads and users with Fedora. The problem is that Fedora is using a very different methodology to count. It's very different to the one that we are using. They don't have UUID to count, and the number of downloads is counted only per weeks, and in a different way that we are counting. So we need to redo all our calculations to use the exact algorithm that they are using. In other case, we can compare. The good thing is that the Fedora guys publish the different historical data, the information that the number of IPs and downloads and users that they have, and the script that they are using to count. So we have the chance to redo our algorithm and really count as the way that they are counting to make this comparison. So thank you to Fedora that we can really make this comparison today. Another variable is the timeline, the time frame. Fedora has shorter release, and the period of Fedora release is there is a small gap because they don't provide data for this timeline, and our release are longer and for a different period of time. So we can compare openSUSE 12.3 with Fedora 12. We need to make a comparison between the more close, more nearest distribution on time. So it's a bit difficult. Okay, let's see that. In the left side, openSUSE. In the right side, Fedora. And this is downloads. And this is a bit sad. The scale is the same, 250K downloads in the scale in the right side and also in the left side. And we can see clearly two things. For both distributions, the number of downloads are decreasing over time. For every distribution every release have less download over time. And we have clearly less downloads than then. Okay, this is data. But this is users. We count users using IPs exactly as they are counting. And we can see that we have more users today than Fedora. And this is very interesting. Also, you can see, sorry for the angle that is in the graph, but you can see that the number of users is decreasing using this metric. But we can see that, in fact, we have more users than Fedora today. And this is something that we need to take care. Also, because the time frame is different, we are counting only 25 weeks. But our release is nearly 40 weeks of time of periods. That means that at the end of the release, we have more users, much more users, than the one that we show here. So I hope that someone say that this is a bit strange. We have a less download here, but we want more users here. This is how it's possible. And one of the explanations that we found is that, we don't make any mistake counting numbers, is that the behavior of the user is a bit different. The openSUSE user doesn't download the new distribution for every release. Instead of that, change the repository URL and make a zipper update, and it's in the next version of the distribution and appears in this graph. So the conclusion that we can say today is that if I didn't make a mistake, we have less download than Fedora, but more users. This is the presentation. I don't know if there is some question.
Hi, I would like you to explain to one thing, if you can, a little bit further, which is the methodology for getting how many machines are updating against our repositories. There's always concerns about how much amount of, which kind of data from users are we tracking. And the second question is, why Fedora and not Canonical, for example, not Ubuntu numbers?
Okay. The easy one is the last one. So because they doesn't provide neither the numbers neither the data, neither the methodology. We have only big titles in the news about how many millions of users they have, but we can contrast the information with our data. So it's impossible to count, to make a comparison because we don't have data, algorithms, we don't have anything. Only big newspaper thing that put a number, but we don't know the period, the version, we don't know anything. Okay, this is the first one is a very interesting question. What is the UUID thing? The UUID thing is a way to identify a machine that have installed openSUSE, and it's a very random number. It's a number generated randomly during the installation process. It's not associated with the IP. We don't count for this graph. We are not counting IP. We can detect where is the user. There is not private information sent. It's only a convenient way to identify a machine in our repository, but we don't have information that who is this person, where he come from, how he's using the distribution. We don't have this information. I asked this information for if we are, I don't know, if there is a privacy problem with counting this UUID, and I have the response is that is not related with the user. There is no way to identify this user, so it's a fair way for us to track machines. About the methodology, the only key question is how we are counting, how we are grouping. So we are counting the number of different UUID by time frame. So in this case, it's a month graph. If we see this UUID during a month, it's one user, one installation that we have during this month. If we don't see again this user in the future, it's lost, and it's one of the users that appears in the slope of the graph. It's only that. It's a way to make groups per period of time and count as a set, count the cardinal of this set, the number of different UUID that we have per period. Any other question? I think that Zompis and...
Do we have any plans to put these on the web somewhere? openSUSE?
Yes, obviously. Fedora provides the script, Fedora provides the numbers. We need to do exactly the same because we need to be fair. So we are going to provide the numbers, we are going to provide the tables, and obviously the script that are used to count. And in this case, if there is a mistake, someone can spot that and we can redo the graph, and obviously, yes.
Okay.
But I want to share as a promise, this graph in this conference.
Great.
My question is the same. If in the future somebody wants to reproduce these results.
Yes, reproduce this data is very difficult. We are talking about like 5 terabytes, maybe more, maybe 8 terabytes of compressed data. If you want really to reproduce this information, you need 8 terabytes of compressed data. And compressed, I don't know, is tons. If you work with the thing that I create, this 1.5 terabyte, this is very difficult to share. We can use the same approach that Fedora did, is to provide the final results and to provide the algorithm, the script that we are using to count as our way and as a Fedora way. It's the only thing that we can provide. The other thing, to provide the raw data, maybe it's not a good idea. Because obviously we have IP address, and this IP can be connected to an address, so maybe there is some kind of legal problem. But the methodology and the final results, obviously, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Do I understand correctly that these data was recovered from logs?
Yes.
So if we are now interested in these data, is it possible just to gather the data and make some counters which will be up to date all the time?
This is very interesting. Yes. Yes. I mean, this is only a small scratch that we can do with the data that we have, but we can do tons of things more. For example, we can plot over the time the IP address with the country, so we can see the evolution of our users, how it's moving from Europe to United States, or how it's moving from Europe to Asia. This is something that we can do. There are tons of things that we can do with this information. Do that in real time. At least the thing that we are doing today is a bit difficult. It's obviously we are within the logs file. We can aggregate the data, but it's a bit difficult to do that in real time. But it's something that maybe it's a good idea to rethink again and create some context for that, at least the users and downloads in real time. But I would like to spend more time in digging into the other side of the data. How is our using evolution? How are moving from country to country? Try to dig more in the behavior of the user. Try to find really how are using our distribution in the cloud, because I think that there is a shift in the user behavior. I mean that we will have laptops and servers, but we have more and more companies that are using the cloud for that, and I want to see if openSUSE is really there, and we have thousands of instances sharing maybe the same UUID in the cloud, and this is something that we can explain. I would like to dig into the other side, create more interesting analytics for the raw data that we have, and maybe in the future something in real time, or at least one per month, or something that we can share.
Do we have any numbers for Evergreen?
For Evergreen, no, we don't have numbers for Evergreen, but it's another thing that we can do, yes.
First of all, a very interesting presentation. My question is, do you have any data on which operating system the users that download the openSUSE come from? For example, the new users are coming from Linux in general, or are they from Windows or Macintosh?
We can do that. I mean, there is a reference, there is the signature app that is stored in the log file. We can see if coming from a Windows or a Linux machine. This is something that we can do, but it's not. The graph of download is only downloads. It's really only downloads, but it's not grouped by which version, which operative system they use to make a download. But this is another good idea that we can resolve. We can make a real response with the raw data that we have. Yes, we can do that, but it's not done for this presentation. But obviously, yes, we can do that, yes.
Any more questions?
Do you also provide a way how to disable this tracking if I'm not interested in providing such data?
How to provide the...
how to disable this tracking if you have some configuration options in Zypper, or if there were any actions to prevent from collecting this data, like setting UUIDs to zeros, or...
I don't get the question, but...
I don't feel quite satisfied with that you are collecting and using such data.
Okay.
Well, I really wouldn't like to see statistics like in Czech Republic there is a huge porn downloader community in comparison with Fedora users and so on. And I believe you have this data.
Yes, I mean, this is only the thing that I present, this users, installation, downloads. We can really dig into this data and create different analytics and see different variables. And for example, one of the things that we can do is we have in our data, it's not shown here, but we have in our data that there are even older distributions that are trying to update from the repository. We see very strange information from another companies. There are tons of different analytics and ways to do that we can show.
Sorry, the question was if users are even aware of such tracking. If there is also any choice how to disable this tracking.
To disable this tracking, yes, they can do that. In fact, there are, we see in the data people that remove the UUID. Yes, there is a variable. I don't know if it's good enough publicly how they can avoid to be counted as user, but it's a matter of remove some file in ATC and you are done. You are not counted. And I see people that is doing that. Yes, I see that.
In any case, okay, this is a path we started to try to, within the openSUSE team, to try to understand if the perceptions were backed up by facts, but in the same way, there's always a limit with about, I mean, we are in the free software ecosystem and we have to be very sensitive with the personal, well, not with the personal data because in fact we are not tracking personal data, we cannot.